Breaking. King Charles justified Parliament in a way that hasn't happened in 300 years. His exact words to Sir Keir Starmer were so devastating that cabinet ministers are now secretly recording emergency meetings on their phones. And what leaked 3 hours ago could trigger the biggest constitutional crisis since the English Civil War. If you want to see how this ends, hit that subscribe button right now because the next 72 hours will determine whether Britain still has a functioning government. Here's what sparked this absolute chaos. Yesterday at 11:47 a.m., King Charles summoned Prime Minister Starmer to Buckingham Palace for what was scheduled as a routine 20-minute courtesy meeting. His message was supposed to be ceremonial, standard protocol, nothing more. But Starmer wasn't prepared for what happened next. The king didn't just speak. He handed Starmer a sealed document stamped with the royal cipher and watched silently as the Prime Minister's face turned white. Sources inside the room say Starmer actually stumbled backward into his chair. The document was devastating. His exact words, read aloud by a senior courtier with the king standing witness, were chilling. This government's actions over the past 6 months constitute a fundamental breach of the unwritten constitutional settlement that has preserved Britain's stability since 1688. I am formally expressing my grave concerns under Article 9 of the Bill of Rights. Article 9. Let that sink in. No monarch has invoked Article 9 in 135 years, not since Queen Victoria faced down Gladstone in 1890. The response was swift and devastating within Parliament. Within hours, the hammer fell. Labour MPs who moments before were defending Starmer's immigration policies suddenly went silent on WhatsApp groups. According to senior Labour sources who spoke to The Telegraph this morning, at least 14 shadow cabinet members are now privately discussing whether Starmer can survive the week. But here's what nobody's talking about yet, and it's the detail that transforms this from a political spat into a genuine constitutional earthquake. The king didn't act alone. 3 days before that Buckingham Palace meeting, Charles held a private dinner with 4 former prime ministers, 2 Conservative, 2 Labour, including Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. The guest list was kept secret until the Times broke the story this morning. What were they discussing for 3.5 hours behind closed doors? According to 2 people with direct knowledge of the dinner, they were drafting a unified statement about governmental overreach. Blair, a man who revolutionised Labour and won 3 elections, reportedly told the king that Starmer's policies represent a betrayal of everything Labour once stood for. When your own party legends are conspiring with the monarchy against you, that's not politics anymore. That's exile. The meeting ended with all 4 former leaders agreeing on one critical point. Britain's constitutional balance is collapsing. The unwritten rules that kept Parliament, the Crown, and the people in harmony for centuries are being shredded by ideological zealots who don't understand or respect British tradition. One former PM, who requested anonymity, allegedly said, "If we don't act now, there won't be a Britain worth governing in 10 years. Those words, spoken by someone who spent years in Downing Street, should chill every person who loves this country. And it gets worse. Documents leaked to the Daily Mail reveal that senior civil servants in the Home Office, the Foreign Office, and even the Treasury have been holding their own secret meetings. They're discussing what's being called the Constitutional Safeguard Protocol, a plan to slow walk or even refuse to implement government policies they consider dangerous to British interests. Unelected bureaucrats are essentially preparing to stage a soft coup against their own government. That's how bad things have gotten. Meanwhile, British veterans who served in Afghanistan and Iraq are sleeping rough on the streets of Manchester and Birmingham, waiting months for mental health support that never comes. James Mitchell, a 52-year-old former Royal Marine from Newcastle, was found last Tuesday morning shivering in a doorway near the train station. He'd served 3 tours in Helmand Province, earned a commendation for bravery under fire, and now survives on £84 a week universal credit. His housing application has been pending for 7 months. While veterans like James sleep in the cold, recently arrived asylum seekers are housed in hotels costing taxpayers £8 million per day. We're talking 4-star accommodations with full meal service, private rooms and laundry facilities. The contrast is so glaring, so morally indefensible, that even traditional Labour voters in working-class constituencies are saying they've had enough. Patricia Williams, a 64-year-old lifelong Labour supporter from Leeds, told Sky News yesterday that she's ashamed of what her party has become. And then there's the story that broke just 6 hours ago that the BBC tried to bury in their late evening bulletin. A Freedom of Information request revealed that 847 veterans are currently on waiting lists for specialised PTSD treatment, some for over 18 months. Meanwhile, mental health services for asylum seekers have been expanded by 340% since Labour took office. The numbers don't lie. Michael Pearson, a 61-year-old veteran from Birmingham who served in the Falklands, tried to access therapy for severe depression 3 times. Each time he was told the waiting list was too long. Last month, he took his own life. His widow, Sarah, released his final note to the press. It said simply, "I fought for this country, and this country forgot me." Those words should haunt every MP who voted for Starmer's policies. Every single one. But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol with a public appearance that shattered every rule in the constitutional playbook. At yesterday's Commonwealth Veterans Association ceremony in Windsor, he delivered what palace insiders are calling the most politically charged speech by a British monarch since George VI during World War II. Those who have defended this realm, Charles declared with barely controlled emotion, deserve to be defended in return by the very institutions they risked everything to preserve. The room fell silent. You could hear people breathing. Palace insiders reveal that the king personally rewrote the speech 4 times, rejecting drafts from his advisors who warned him it was too political, too confrontational, too dangerous. He didn't care. One senior courtier who's worked at Buckingham Palace for 23 years said they'd never seen His Majesty so determined to be heard. The optics are absolutely brutal for Starmer. While the king champions veterans, the Prime Minister defends housing, policies that prioritise foreign nationals over British servicemen. What happened immediately after that speech reveals just how deep this crisis goes. Prince William, who normally avoids anything remotely political, posted a statement on social media within 90 minutes. Our veterans represent the best of Britain. They deserve the best from Britain. 23 words that sent a nuclear shockwave through Westminster. When both the king and the heir to the throne break protocol on the same day, that's not coincidence, that's coordination. That's the royal family drawing a line in the sand and daring Parliament to cross it. Senior constitutional lawyer Sir Geoffrey Robertson told Channel 4 News this morning that we're witnessing the most direct royal intervention in government policy since the constitutional crisis of 1936. For younger viewers, that was when King Edward VIII abdicated over his relationship with Wallis Simpson. This is that level of drama playing out in real time. The domino effect hit like an earthquake. Polls showed 68% of Britons agree with the King's statement, including 43% of Labour voters. That's not a political divide, that's a national consensus forming against the government. £2.3 billion wiped from the pound sterling within 6 hours of the King's speech, as currency traders bet on political instability. Hashtag Defend Our Veterans trending globally for 18 consecutive hours with over 4.7 million posts. 14 Labour MPs have now either resigned from shadow cabinet positions or publicly distanced themselves from immigration policy. Protests erupted across London, Leeds, Manchester, Glasgow and Cardiff, with crowds carrying Union Jacks and demanding Starmer's resignation. This isn't ordinary political opposition. This is the entire country watching their government lose legitimacy in real time. But wait, because there's another layer to this that makes everything even more explosive. International allies are now getting involved in ways that should terrify Downing Street. The Australian Prime Minister gave a press conference this morning in Canberra where he was asked about the UK crisis. His response was diplomatic but damning. Australia stands with our veterans and expects our closest allies to do the same. Translation: Starmer is embarrassing Britain on the world stage. The Canadian Defence Minister went further, announcing a new programme to fast-track UK veterans who want to immigrate to Canada. If Britain won't take care of its heroes, Canada will. That statement has been viewed 8.3 million times on social media. When your international partners are publicly offering to rescue your veterans from your own government, you've lost more than a political argument. You've lost your nation's honour. Inside, number 10 Downing Street, the atmosphere is being described as somewhere between panic and mutiny. Ministers are avoiding each other in corridors, terrified their conversations are being recorded. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner allegedly told 3 MPs in a bathroom at Westminster that Starmer has lost the plot completely. Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy was overheard saying in the members' dining room that the Czech government is careening toward total disaster. WhatsApp groups with names like the Restoration Committee and Post-Starmer Planning are plotting leadership transitions with the urgency of generals preparing a coup. The question isn't if they'll move against Starmer, it's when. And how brutal will they make it? Sources say Starmer looked genuinely shaken during yesterday's emergency cabinet meeting, his hands trembling as he shuffled papers he wasn't even reading. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who's supposed to be preparing the most important budget in a decade, has gone completely dark. No interviews, no statements, no public appearances for 72 hours. Her silence is deafening because everyone in Westminster knows what it means. She's waiting, calculating, preparing her own leadership campaign for the moment Starmer falls. Insiders say she's already held meetings with at least 30 Labour MPs, promising them stability, competence, and a return to electable policies. One MP who attended described it as watching someone measure the curtains in Downing Street while the current occupant is still living there. But here's the layer that could bring down not just Starmer but permanently damage Labour's electoral prospects for a generation. Leaked documents obtained by GB News show internal Home Office memos explicitly prioritising asylum seeker accommodation over veteran support services. If these documents are real, and if they show what 3 separate government sources claim they reveal, then Starmer's team didn't just make poor policy decisions. They actively chose to neglect British veterans in favour of foreign nationals for political reasons related to international image management. Think about what that means. Your government looked at James Mitchell sleeping in a doorway and said, "We have resources, but we're allocating them elsewhere." They saw the statistics. They knew the numbers. They understood veterans were suffering, and they made a conscious choice. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating in an election campaign where every opposition ad could feature a homeless veteran next to a hotel housing migrants. One memo, dated August 15th and marked sensitive political strategy, allegedly contains this sentence: veteran accommodation requests should be processed through standard channels to avoid appearance of preferential treatment, while asylum seeker housing should be expedited to demonstrate Britain's continued commitment to international humanitarian obligations. Read that again. Avoid appearance of preferential treatment for British veterans. In Britain, the country they fought for. If that memo is authentic, and legal experts say the metadata suggests it is, then Labour didn't just fail veterans by accident. They failed them by design. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are positioning themselves as defenders of British values and protectors of those who served. While Starmer stumbles through defensive press conferences, Farage appears on morning television, looking calm and statesmanlike. "We're not asking for miracles," he said on Good Morning Britain yesterday. "We're asking that British veterans get priority in their own country. Is that really so radical?" The polls tell the story that should terrify Labour headquarters. For the first time in modern British political history, Reform UK has pulled ahead in 3 separate constituencies that Labour won by double digits in the last election. Conservative support steady at 31%. Labour collapsing to 24%. Reform surging to 27% in the latest Ipsos Mori poll released this morning. Farage isn't just leading a protest movement anymore, he's leading what could become the next government. And here's the part that should make every establishment politician nervous. Farage is winning over voters that the major parties thought were locked in forever. Working-class Labour voters in former mining towns. Suburban Conservative supporters who feel betrayed by Tory weakness. Young people who've never voted Reform before but see the treatment of veterans and feel genuine outrage. One 8-year-old teacher from Southampton told LBC Radio yesterday, "I voted Labour my whole life, but I can't support a party that treats soldiers like rubbish while rolling out red carpets for people who've never contributed a penny." That's the demographic shift that ends political parties forever. The next 7 days are critical beyond anything Britain has experienced in peacetime. Monday brings a confidence vote in Parliament that Starmer may actually lose. Wednesday sees emergency session on veteran services that will expose every failure in excruciating public detail. Friday marks the King's scheduled speech to the House of Lords, where constitutional experts predict he'll issue another unprecedented statement. The question is no longer whether Starmer survives until Christmas. It's whether Labour itself can recover from the catastrophic damage of choosing ideology over the men and women who bled for Britain. This country is watching its political establishment reveal itself in the most unflattering light possible. At its epicentre stands a Prime Minister who looks increasingly isolated, increasingly desperate, and increasingly finished. History will remember this week as the moment Britain's post-war political consensus finally shattered. The unwritten rules that govern British politics since 1945 are being rewritten in real time, and nobody knows what comes next. Will the monarchy reassert itself as a check on parliamentary power? Will Reform UK break through and become a governing party? Will Labour tear itself apart in a civil war between moderates and radicals? Every option leads to chaos. Every path forward is littered with constitutional landmines. And through it all, veterans sleep in doorways while politicians fight over who gets to pretend they care. So here's the question that matters. Did Starmer just destroy Labour's chances in the next election? Did King Charles permanently shift the constitutional balance by speaking out? Or did he do exactly what monarchs are supposed to do, remind Parliament of the duties it's forgotten? What do you think? Did Starmer make the right call or the worst mistake of his political life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one because this conversation matters more than any politician wants to admit. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Westminster right now. The mainstream media won't give you the full picture, but we will. Subscribe now because tomorrow morning we're releasing leaked audio from inside that emergency cabinet meeting, and what you'll hear will confirm your worst fears about who's really running this country.